Hi, good evening, everyone. I apologize. I'm having problems with my my camera. Actually, the camera works. The audio doesn't work.
You had a haircut?
So, no. It just, I don't know what it is. Something goofy with my camera.
It's regressing.
Yeah, right. I'd like to take a couple of things a little bit out of order tonight. I'd like to move commission chair up to the beginning of the meeting. I have that on there because after town meeting, we are supposed to select a chairperson for our group. I've chaired the group for quite a while. I am more than happy to turn it over to someone else if one of you is interested in chairing the group. I'd be happy to do that. Any takers?
We'd be happy to have you continue if you're willing to.
Okay. Yes, I am willing to continue, but I want to leave it open to the whole group if there's anyone else who wants to move into the chair position. So
I think in other committees, they like to change chairs every 4 years just to keep things going. But in this committee, you're the most qualified to run this. This is such a specific, I can't do the word that I want, fill in the blank, that you are the most qualified to run this.
I think you also have the staff and available to just help out, and the rest of us would sort of be inventing the wheel, trying to.
And you get the mailings and the
right. Well, okay. So if this is the wish of the group, we just need a motion and a vote.
I'd like to continue to chair the Concord Disability Commission.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. Karen, can you as clerk call? We have to have a by name live voice confirmation.
Yeah, so I'm only asking members of the commission, right?
Yes.
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 So Jennifer?
I would agree, yes.
Okay.
Aye.
And Meryl, yes, right?
Yes. Aye.
Janet, your vote?
You're muted, Janet.
You're muted.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. And Terry?
Yes.
Okay. That's us, right?
And you
Okay.
vote too, Karen.
Yes. Oh, yes. And me.
And Jean votes.
I agree.
Do I?
Oh, and
Okay.
Jean also? Okay.
All right. Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. And then we have the report of the hearing loss group here, and Bob asked if we could move this up in the agenda so that that members can talk about it a little bit, and then I think you've got another meeting after this one. So I get it. This is number 6 for me today, so
Wow.
you do need a little bit of a break in between.
Thank you.
So,
If I might,
yeah, go ahead, Meryl.
I read the report of your committee, Bob, and I'm very impressed with the amount of research and commitment you've made to study this whole issue. And I was reading recommendations, and I think that they're very thoughtfully laid out. I just don't, I'm not sure how to proceed. And I'm not sure what role we should be playing, that maybe Jean can shed some light, or maybe other people have an opinion about whether we should be taking this on as, you know, the organization that furthers the question of what the town should be doing, or whether whether we can work jointly in some way. I'm wondering what you could perhaps fill us in, Bob, on your thoughts.
Okay, let me just say that that Tim Hodges, as the ADA coordinator, for the town, actually initiated this meeting. We sent you a copy of our report at the same time that we sent a copy of the report to Kate. And, it's been reviewed by, by her and several members of her, her team, her staff, who are currently at this meeting. I don't know whether Kate is here herself, but I had.
Yeah, Kate's here.
Yeah, okay, so I think Kate needs to perhaps lead us off. Kate?
Yep, is that all right, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Great. So thank you for having us. Bob is absolutely right. He and his group had a couple of conversations with myself and my team, which for this particular project consists of Ryan Orr, who's our facilities director, John Stragus, who's our facility operations coordinator, and Ginger Quarles, who is in charge of senior services and the Council on Aging. And we met to discuss briefly and kind of get an overview of the things that the group has seen and observed and, potentially struggled with in town buildings. We got a fairly good idea of sort of the barriers and how they're different in and amongst different buildings. Bob had told us that this report was coming, and so we said, well, let's wait until the report comes and then we'll meet again, which we did. So the team met with Bob and his group. I was unable to attend that as I was double booked that day, but and kind of just discuss some of the options. And in between when we received the report from Bob and the group and last week's meeting, I had reached out to Jean for the Commission on Disability, not to shove the project or anything on your group, but to involve the group in a decision-making process. The town is committed to making sure that every citizen can participate in any meeting or any event, anything that we have. And there are a lot of options out there, and the very comprehensive report that the group put together spells out many options. And as the ADA coordinator, have access to a very small amount of money. It's about $5,000 a year, as the commission knows, for ADA improvements in town. Now, historically, those have been used sometimes for curb cuts, other times for accessible barriers that we have in other public buildings or storefronts. Last year, we used it for the bump out at 55 Church Street because you all had expressed basically a barrier that we didn't know existed, of course. And so Ryan Orr was able to work with the group and do that. So we use it for, various projects. And I'm wondering, one, if the committee would like to use this fiscal year's funds for something related to this group, and if so, is there a preferred pilot program or pilot temporary thing that we can do? And I know that the group was talking about a portable system, and we were thinking perhaps to deploy that perhaps at the Harvey Wheeler Community Center, because for the foreseeable future, we're likely not going to have large scale meetings. I think we're still going to be in the Zoom realm. But our hope, not speaking for Ginger personally, but our hope is that we can start to have small groups of folks back at Harvey Wheeler for limited offerings, perhaps after the first of the year. And we would be using those larger rooms, the auditorium and the clock tower room, so that people could be appropriately distant from one another. But of course, doing that obviously makes, hearing assistance even more important. And so I guess I'm just looking to start a dialogue, get the opinion of the commission as the subject matter experts on a lot of it, and sort of tell us what you think the highest and best use of this $5,000 would be, and do you agree that Harvey Wheeler is the place to start the program?
So one of the concerns I have, Kate, is the ADA is pretty specific about ensuring access for everyone. And I agree right now during the pandemic, there aren't large meetings and so forth. But I think that the town is going to need to either work with this group or independently come up with something that will resolve the situation in all of the public meeting rooms, because it's not okay to have rooms that are not accessible. And I know that, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
just on that,
yeah.
in that vein, we actually do have assisted listening devices that are in all of our public buildings. What my understanding is that the group feels that those are insufficient. So I don't want anyone to come away from this meeting thinking that we don't have something already in place. What I'm hearing is that what we have in place isn't necessarily the ideal. And so we'd obviously like to get to the ideal.
Sure.
But I'd like to be able to have the ideal be flushed out before we go and install something that doesn't work or doesn't work for everybody, or is as insufficient as the system we have now. And so the system that we have in place was my predecessor, Doug Marr, was able to kind of bid that out, and they did that as a very holistic thing. And I'm not sure what type of vetting it had, but what I do know is that they spent a considerable amount of money outfitting 6 buildings with this one particular type, and clearly that type is somewhat inefficient, and I don't want to repeat that mistake. So we are compliant as far as providing access, but it's the type of access. And so just having it, I'd like to have the A+ version, not the C- version, which I believe is what we have now. So
So Bob, are you sort of the spokesperson for the group? You're muted, Bob. Okay, you're still muted, Bob Andrews.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I hear very badly when I speak very badly when I'm muted. Anyway, the group is clearly, asking that there be a commitment, by the town to full compliance with the ADA law, and that would really mean, that there has to be some, technology available and in use in all of the facilities. Now that we did, recognize in the report that not everything realistically can or should be done at the same time immediately, but there does need to be a plan, for full compliance. We picked on the Harvey Wheeler Community Center as a good target, for filling in the first target for filling in the gaps. they do have some, some good assistive listening devices present there. Although people who attend meetings don't necessarily know that they're there and don't know how to use them, or have some kind of stigma that makes it embarrassing for them to use them. But there are some rooms, and the most notable, I think, is the clock tower room, where there are, fairly good sized meetings in a space that's acoustically not very good for even people who have pretty good hearing. If you're sitting at one end of it and listening to somebody talking at the other end of it, if you've got hearing impairment and are doing that, it can be impossible. So we thought that would be a good place to begin to have kind of a pilot project. There was some reference to traveling, portable systems. That came up, I think, mainly because the Harvey Wheeler Center, has a number of smaller spaces as well as the larger ones. The auditorium is the largest. Then there's a clock tower room, and then there are several, smaller rooms where people sit around a table. Even those rooms, need to be clearly hearing accessible. And that was where the portable equipment came up that might be, carried from one room to another in a suitcase. But we're not recommending that as a general, thing. Is there someone else in my group who would like to fill that in a little? Somebody who was talking about it perhaps at the other meeting. Ed?
Yes, Bob. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting us. My name's Ed LeClaire. I live at Concord Green, and I pretty much 80–90% loss of hearing. So I'm very interested in what's happening, and I really appreciate Bob bringing us together to do this. The two areas that we looked into for the kind of technology that you could utilize in small rooms and large rooms were what's called an FM Wi-Fi system. It's many of you who have seen FM systems have a headphone and a receiver that is very common. Right now, there is an evolution of that technology where they're not only doing the FM, but they're also doing a Wi-Fi. And so that's one of the things. And that can be done in a large area, or as Bob and Kate mentioned, it can also be a portable. The other one is an induction loop, in which you have a room fitted with an electronic wire that around the circumference of the room. And for people who have hearing aids, the induction loop brings the sound directly to our hearing aids through this device called a telecoil. That is like regaining your ability to hear for those of us who can't hear. It's that clear and it's that dramatic. So that you have the induction loop and you have the FM Plus system. And those two systems, we were recommending that we might want to try them out for the parties who are interested in observing how effective they are. We gave in the report some cost factors, but those cost factors have to be looked at with some question, because we were talking to salespeople and manufacturers rep. They're not going to give us the actual numbers until there's a proposal put forward, and that's what we're hoping that would happen. So those are the two things that we recommend. There were two other things that we looked at for those of you on the commission who might be privy to hearing loss problems. One was a infrared system, but that was very expensive, very costly, And we also know that the FM Wi-Fi system would work very well in the Harvey Wheeler because they have a strong Wi-Fi system. We also know a lot of the rooms around town have a Wi-Fi system. So it seems like those are the two we recommended that would fit the best. And actually, the induction loop is more expensive. The FM Wi-Fi system is less expensive, but that's the next step, is who's interested in coming together to formulate a long-term program that we can start with an idea of what the finished plan is for making the whole town in compliance.
I have a question about the Wi-Fi system. Is it something that people could use, say, their own cell phone and their
Yes.
own headphones? So it would, in the long run, mean less purchase of equipment. People could bring their own devices.
Yes.
So, Kate, because this falls on you, I'm wondering if you can work with this group and put together a short range and long range plan to get the rooms all accessible so that people are able to hear. And I absolutely hear your concern about, let's be careful about how we do this and not buy something that either doesn't work as well as we wish it would, or is going to be obsolete in 2 years. I think certainly, working with the newest technology tends to be something that will have it last longer. But is this something that you or your team can work on over the next few months with this group?
So first of all, yes, and we're committed to doing that. But the way that I'd like to come up with the long range plan is to first have, and I was hoping to get an official, and it doesn't have to be this meeting if folks want to think about it, but an official sort of vote and okay to have the pilot program of both the FM system, and I'd like to put out an RFQ, so a request for quotations, which doesn't bind us to anything, but the ability to find out what our cost price point would be. I know that I went on the Municipal system, and there are a couple of AV vendors that are on the state bid list. Although they didn't have any of these type of conduction or hearing loop systems listed, it doesn't mean that they don't have them. I think it's sort of a specialty item, and they try to put out the things that people are looking for most likely. So what I'd like to do is be able to do that with the commission's blessing, run that for a bit, and I can't quite say how long it's going to be because we need it to be used, which means we need the buildings to be open to the public in order to do so. And then from there, develop the long range plan. So for example, if we think that the highest and best is to have both of these systems, one portable and one for the hearing loop system, and yet that might not be effective in the hearing room at the townhouse, for example, because the acoustics are different. I'd like to be able to flush that out, and I don't know enough about those systems. And so I'm hoping if we can establish a relationship with a vendor, we can then say, you've installed in this building. The vendor would be a lot more amenable to coming out and giving a quote, knowing that they've already done business, versus them just thinking that we're cold calling and trying to get quotes for no benefit to them, which is unfortunate, but it is what happens. So
yeah.
That's what I would like to do. That's my proposal. I'm open to suggestions, and if you all don't think that that's a good approach, that I'd love to hear what you think is a good approach.
So, Kate, if you were to install an FM system in, say, the clock tower room, would you also install the Wi-Fi system, or is it one or the other?
Do you mean the hearing loop system?
No. Well, is the hearing loop the only one that uses the Wi-Fi?
Not, my understanding is no. Is that correct?
Okay.
Still correct?
And may I interject?
Sure.
The Wi-Fi and FM system is one and the same. They actually produce simultaneously. The induction loop is a separate one.
Okay.
So I am looking, so the FM and wireless system, we were able to price out, and that isn't cost prohibitive. I don't have a good handle on the induction system, and so I would like to be able to bid that out so we can figure out what that would cost. And I'd like to do both.
Okay.
And get some feedback about the pros and cons of each system. I can commit to the less expensive system because we already have that money in the budget as long as the commission agrees to spend it on that. I don't know how much the other system would cost, but we would start with the auditorium versus the clock tower room because it's a larger area and more likely to be used at least in the short term, and go from there.
May I raise a question here?
Sure.
You know, this is really both to both Kate and to Eugene. You know, Kate mentions that you know that the town has been setting aside $5,000 in a year to improve their systems, as I understood it. On your end, Kate, I mean, I have to ask the question whether there's, you know, some foreseeable flexibility in that, in that, because, you know, at $5,000 a year, it may take a heck of a long time to
Agreed.
a full compliance position. And I guess to both of you, I would raise the question as to whether you are aware of other sources of funds that might be tapped into. You know, are there grants, you know, for example, that you know, that can be obtained to help a municipality make this kind of a commitment reality?
So for the record, the past 4 fiscal years, I've actually put in for $15,000, but I've been cut because, you know, there's many competing priorities in town. That said, I always plan on the 5, even though I ask for more, but we do have the capital fund. And so if we are able to successfully get quotes and we feel like this is a good system, I would submit, you know, a capital request similar to the ones that you see for the purchases of fire engines and trucks and, you know, and we could go that way. Now that would be if what we want is going to have a shelf life of at least 10 years. And if it's going to be over, you know, somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000. If we're talking smaller than that, then we could use cash capital, which is essentially a portion of the general fund that we put aside for capital projects that are in the $10,000 range. So it isn't just that we can only use the ADA money. There are other funds in town. And then on top of that, the town has a townwide building maintenance account, which in my opinion is woefully underfunded. And it's what funds John Stragus and Ryan Orr's department. And so we get a sum of money for all town buildings. And if we wanted to ask for $50,000 or $60,000 more, say in the next coming fiscal years, and earmark that for something like this, we certainly can put that to the finance committee, the select board, and ultimately the voters. So we have a mechanism to do it.
That's good to hear.
Good.
The other area that being heard at the moment, yes. The other area that I've been active in town is around climate action and the environment. And we now have a director of sustainability, Kate Hanley, and I know that you know that some of the things that Kate has done have, you know, gone beyond the regular town budget, and that she has been able to secure grants from the Commonwealth to, you know, to help them move forward on what they, you know, what they have been doing. I just wonder if anybody has explored that kind of avenue.
So
Kate, I know that you've applied for the MOD grant.
times.
Yeah.
And I have unfortunately been denied 3 times.
Oh.
The Mass Office on Disability has a grant program that they put out every year. They do a really good job of advertising it and you know, giving potential clientele all kinds of information, and so we've submitted that for several different projects, ADA related, but the last 2 years it was to update our plan. One of the things that's interesting about that is that you have to have an accessibility audit and an accessibility compliance plan, and it has to be one that is within 10 years. And unfortunately, the last one was due to expire this year, and so 2 years ago I started putting in for grant money to have that redone, because it's essentially a consultant that comes. Updating the study is a little bit less expensive, well, quite a bit less expensive than starting it from scratch, but I was denied that, and without that, we don't pass through now to be eligible. So I think my next thing, at least for this coming capital, is going to be to ask for the funding that we need in order to update that plan, because updating that plan will then make us eligible for other grant opportunities. But absolutely, I'm always on the lookout for grants and ways that we don't have to necessarily use tax dollars to be able to get things done.
Mm-hmm. Good.
That makes sense.
So one, oh yeah, Jennifer.
I have a quick question. I just want to make sure I understand. So we have no FM system in place in any of our public buildings. Is that correct? Currently, we have hearing assisting headphones, but not an FM system. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So then obviously we have no induction loop systems anywhere in town either. That's obvious, right?
That's correct.
So we're working pretty far behind the curve in terms of, just as a general strategy. FM systems are not even, you know, top of the line right now. They're like old news, and we haven't even got that. So I'm concerned that if we're only looking at sort of an initial $5,000 from this commission's kitty, we're trying to add to it. We need to prioritize what the plan is in terms of which spaces need assistance first, and what kind. I love the idea of getting to an induction loop, but if we're talking about strictly compliance as quickly as possible, I think that would be the goal. And then once compliance has been achieved, or at least is on the way to being achieved, then you can start thinking about upgrading that to the induction loop, especially if budget is going to be a concern. I read the paper, I listen to the news. Budget is going to be a concern across this Commonwealth and many other states in the country, given the COVID crisis that we're in. So I would really like to see a prioritization of the spaces. It would seem to me that public process is really the most key place to begin. It's where do people have to go to, you know, participate in public process, and what the cost of getting an FM system as soon as possible into those places, because it addresses the largest group of people, even those who aren't using hearing aids. I think once we have some basic strategies on the road to being implemented, then we can have a conversation about the induction loop, which I absolutely think should be on the table. I listen to Ed, I hear you. It's like getting your hearing back. That's huge. But I think that we have to reach compliance first. So that's, as you know, as a member of the commission, if we're going to spend our money, I would like to see what which space is first, which space is second, which space is third, and how much is the cost to get the FM system into those 3 spaces.
Okay, but Jennifer, I just want to be clear. The town is in compliance. We just don't have a system that is thought by all to be, you know, low profile, but there are systems in every building available that are open and available to the public. So As far
Right.
as legally is concerned, we are compliant. We are not
Okay.
non-compliant. But that isn't, we want to do better than that. That's all, but I just don't want anybody to think that we are not in compliance, because we absolutely are. And if we were not, we wouldn't be able to do other projects in town, because a lot of times, depending on what we're doing and the value of that, we have to actually have an ADA audit that's done. And so unless we apply for a variance because it's, for example, the town steps in the front, we apply for a variance when we did work there because they're historical. But other than that, we would be cited. So we, in the eyes of the AAB and the ADA, we are compliant. We just want to be compliant +1 or +5, depending.
Right. So for example, like at Townhouse, how many assisted listening devices do we have?
6.
So if you're number 7 who shows up to the Townhouse, you're out of luck.
No, because a lot of times, well, first of all, we've never had any more than 2 people take them. But, but what you could do is the systems are all compatible with one another, and they're also compatible with the ones that are in the high school. And so oftentimes we ask people that if they believe that they're going to need it, if they could let us know ahead of time. So for example, things like town meeting, we bring all the systems there. So we have 30 something available, and they're all compatible with one another, and they just would be on different frequencies. The other thing is we have the system that we have now, even though you can take it from building to building, if you're attending a meeting, say in the select board room, but you're attending another one in the hearing room, you're able to actually have them operated based on the meeting room that you're in on that frequency. But it isn't an FM frequency. It's a different type of wave that comes from almost like a hub that's in the corner of each of those rooms. So it's much more localized, but they're compatible with one another.
Right. And that goes back to Bob's point about if people don't know that they exist, they don't know to ask ahead of time, who do I call, right? So that kind of information is super helpful. But so it's really good to hear that we have that many and that they can be moved around from venue to venue.
So we also put, just so you know, there's a sign, particularly there's ones that say assisted listening devices available. We try not to make it neon and to stick out, and because when we did have that, we got some complaints. So I think it's a sensitive area. So I'd be interested to see what else we could do without sort of calling it out or embarrassing anybody. And the other thing is on the bottom of the agendas prior to Zoom meetings, it would have my name and information, and it would have the general number at the town manager's office that said you can call anytime and tell somebody that you're going to need something, and we'll make sure it's there. Now, we don't require people to do that, but so I'm not sure how else we could do it, but we certainly could ask members of different committees, like to say if you're having trouble hearing, could you please tell the chair? But it's just we're trying to be sensitive that people might not want to put that on display.
I have some comment there. We've made pretty much of an issue in the report alongside of the technology. The way that these devices, these assistive devices are made known to the people who are there. I personally have really been very, very distressed, very frustrated attending a number of meetings because I have not either known that anything was available or I've known, but I have asked leaders of meetings about it, and they have not known what to tell me. One leader told me that there were some devices in a closet in the back of the select board's meeting room, but getting them out of there, I had no idea how to use them, and the leader of the meeting had no idea how to use them. I don't think you can leave too much of the responsibility, for discovering that this equipment is present and how to use it on the person who's hearing impaired. There has to be a proactive kind of approach on the part of the people who are running things, and we're looking for a protocol, for that.
So that's a
So-
good action item for us, and we will certainly get on that. And I think alerting the committee chairpersons to the fact that they're available, where they are, and they're, in the case of the townhouse, they're in a bin, and they come with a card that has pictures on how to do it. So if those cards are missing, which happens, they're small, so people maybe just put it in with their meeting materials and leave with it. We'll make sure that that's checked often so we can replace them if they go missing.
Sure. Maybe it'd be possible to enlarge them and laminate them and put them in with the equipment. Jennifer, you had a comment, and then Meryl.
Right. I was just going to say that if we had an FM system, people could bring their own headphones and their own devices, and it would expand greatly the opportunity for participants using that system, and would be an enormous upgrade, is what I'm hearing. And if one could have then just directions handy at each of the venues, that would, again, Jean, I think you were saying it would reduce the amount of equipment that would be necessary. It's also something people could prepare for and bring with them. But so I think I just want to go back to, what's the priority space list, and what does it cost to get an FM system installed in each of those spaces? It's pretty straightforward, I think.
Okay, thank you. Meryl, you had a comment? You're muted, Meryl.
Yes. The only other separate issue that I wanted to raise is the fact that the town should make make a concerted effort for any new buildings to include the loop system. This was not done with the high school, unfortunately. Otherwise, we would be able to enhance people's accessibility there. But certainly with the middle school, there should be someone from the town that that points out on the planning end, which is underway, that they really should automatically, it's so much less expensive to do it in the building phase, from what I had heard. So, I'm sure there's going to be, some meeting space in that building, so such as an auditorium. So I would suggest that the town do some planning for any new construction.
Can I make a suggestion? It would
Sure.
be, Stephen Crane, our town manager, is on that committee. And I think it would be very helpful if the commission could draft a short letter to him and send it to him, requesting that be a part of the design plan and introduced either by him or a member of your group as a need and a desire. I think it would be helpful, and I think having something in writing would be helpful for him to be able to provide both to the consultant and the other members of the committee.
Okay. Could we do that,
Yeah.
Jane?
Yes, we can certainly do that.
Mhm.
So I'm going to suggest a next step, not all the steps, but a next step. So Kate, could you please work with your team and get a quote for the sort of first step that you're recommending, and come back to us at the next meeting? Does that give you enough time, a month's time?
I don't know, because we're at the mercy of someone coming out and doing that.
True.
So I think
Okay.
if you can pencil us in, and I will
Okay.
certainly let you know if we're running into any type of issue. Also,
Okay.
I'm having my knee replaced on October 20th.
Oh.
And so, and not that my team needs
Yeah.
me to be able to spearhead this, but I think we'll just be a person down, obviously, as far as work is related. So we'll get on it next week and see how soon we can get
Okay.
on someone's docket.
Okay, that sounds reasonable to me. You know, with a goal of trying to get something accomplished early in FY, or not FY, early in calendar year 21.
Understood. Yep.
And then to be starting to think about, I hear that it may take until we're back around and together better to be able to fully plan, but to start thinking about a long range plan and how that would come together.
I just wanted to, point out, which you'll know if you read the report, that, that our group did not unequivocally, recommend one technological system to address these issues. There's been quite a bit of discussion of FM on the one hand and loop systems on the other, but we came up with, two kinds of systems that we felt were really worth considering. The loop systems have been, clearly considered, the top of the line. But there is this Wi-Fi plus system, which involves FM, but it's not just an FM system, that is said to have very high quality sound as well, and does not, entail the costs that are associated with the loop system. So we're looking to, to see some exploration of that.
Okay, so advice to Kate on that. And I do want to sort of back to a bit to Jennifer's point. The town is required to make things accessible, whether it's for mobility impairment or visual impairments or hearing loss. But the town is not required to make it the very best. However, to be a truly accessible and welcoming community, which I think Concord certainly aspires to be, that's the direction that we want to go. And I'm happy, Kate, to hear you thinking about that as an important direction for the town. So
Yeah, legal compliance, I understand, is important, and for that we are, but
yeah,
we want to provide the very best in a responsible way. So the team is committed to doing that, and I think we have a good direction, and we will be back.
Great. Okay, thank you very much.
And thank you to the hearing group. It was just very, very, very enlightening. And it was a wonderful report. It was fascinating. And, I really, it was outstanding. So thank you for providing us with that, because we don't know.
Yeah, you all did a really fabulous job. Clearly spent a lot of time and a lot of effort on putting together a very thorough and thoughtful report. So thank you for that, and we'll continue to work with you and work with the town.
Well, we really appreciate the serious attention that you're giving to this, and we look forward to it moving forward.
Great.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes. All right. So moving on, the library parking concerns. So the library, bye Bob. The library had a couple of public meetings, showed the various parking options that they were considering, and then said that they would be meeting themselves. And I have not heard anything further. I don't know if any of you have heard anything more about parking. So given that it's been a couple of weeks now since their last public meeting, I'll reach out to the Library Corporation and find out where things stand on that. Last time we talked a little bit about liaisons to our town committees, the other town committees. And I know some of you already have said, I'd like this one or I'd like that one. Meryl has already been made a member of the Transportation Committee. So I wanted to check and see where others of you stand. I think, Janet, you said you wanted to be the liaison to the HDC.
I did, and at their only meeting, I was sick, so I have not made any contact with them.
Okay.
Should I let them know that I'm going to be the contact between us and them?
Great.
Should I let them know that? Do they care?
Yes. Yeah. No, certainly let them know.
Okay. And so they will keep me in their meeting schedule?
I think if you reach out to Peter Nobile, the chair,
Okay.
and ask him to add you to the email list. And I should actually, I'm sorry, I should introduce to everyone Grazia de la Cruz,
Hi.
who is our new liaison from the COA.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Great, and we're happy to have you. We've had several great liaisons over the course of our time as a commission. So we're happy to have you and have you join our meetings.
Thank you very much. I look forward to working with everyone.
Wonderful. How about others of you? Does anybody have a favorite committee they'd like to take part in?
I have a question regarding
Yes, Mara.
the transportation, coming from the Transportation Committee. With they're discussing any goals that they have. And I'm just wondering if there is, if anybody has any specific, ideas on what we could request that the Transportation Committee do in regard to accessibility. So I would like to, I know that they're going to be discussing it next meeting, but I just wanted to, this just occurred the other day. So I want to just bring the question to the committee, to our commission, as to what we should be focusing on in terms of accessible transportation. Do people have any ideas on what our needs are and what direction we could give the new committee?
I have a suggestion for something that the committee could do that would be, I think, a big benefit. And that would be to be in touch with the MBTA and really lobby hard to have the ride expanded beyond Concord. Right now, if you live in Concord and you want to take the ride, you can go east toward the Boston, but you can't go to Acton or Maynard or any of our surrounding communities. So I think that would be a big benefit for people in Concord who would like to go to some of these other communities.
So you're suggesting that the ride be expanded.
Right.
Do you think that the ride is an adequate form of transportation for people who are disabled?
I think it works well for some, not everyone. I mean, there's really not going to be a one size fits all kind of thing, but this is one piece of the option, or one option for transportation for people that want to use it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and you all may have other thoughts and ideas as well, but that's one I know that I hear, desire for. Karen.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I would just agree that it isn't ideal, but given the lack of any other means of transportation to those towns, and that is where a number of, I know personally my son would be able to make use of that option. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's something to start with, definitely.
Right. So towns west of
Yeah.
here really
Right.
are not, really
Unless you're on the
available.
commuter rail or something, that's a
Mhm.
whole other set of issues. So.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. If anybody has any other thoughts, please just email me or call me and let me know what your ideas might be.
Yeah. Mira, could you ask at the next meeting what the status is of the Crosstown Connect?
Okay.
Because that's another transportation option. And I know that the town of Concord was working toward a better plan. Oh, Terry, you have info?
I know a little bit about, we did receive a grant, a pretty good sized grant, I think $250,000. But
Wow.
I heard just the other day at a meeting, so I'm not going to get this 100% right, but because of COVID, we were not able to implement everything on time, and the state is having back any funds that they can find, and they're taking back that grant, and we're going to have to
Oh,
reapply, which
Oh.
I'm sure will be,
Wow.
get the grant again, but it's unfortunate that this happened, and I may not have all the details correct, but it's a detour on, which Crosstown Connect was moving along really well. We had the great grant, but,
mhm.
We have a delay now.
Oh,
I'm not even familiar with the Crosstown Connect, and I'm wondering, do other people in the community know about what it is?
Right.
I mean,
That's a very good point, Meryl. We didn't even get that far. Basically, we were going to have, we will have a shuttle bus. Too bad, I think Kate could probably explain a lot more about it than me, but we have the route plan, and there will be publicity, but we didn't even get that far because we lost, it's delayed.
yeah.
got
I know there was a big transportation forum last winter, I want to say, or maybe it was even November. And that Crosstown Connect was a big part of that.
I see.
But yeah, sounds like it's certainly on hold at the moment.
That's too bad. I thank you for filling me in.
So as I looked at the sort of list of committees that we talked about last time, I would think that the most important ones, certainly transportation, HDC, connection with the COA, but perhaps the planning department and DPW would be really important committees. I'm not sure if any of you are interested in trying to be a liaison to one of those committees, but I'll put that out there as what I think are the higher priorities. So
Excuse me.
think about, yeah, yes.
DPW
Grazia.
stands for Department of Parks and
No, Department of Public Works.
Public Works. Okay.
Yeah, that has to do with our roadways and the infrastructure of the town.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And HDC is?
Historic District Commission.
Okay, I would be interested in that. I don't know how many I can take on, But the Historic District Commission sounds something that I would be interested in.
Yeah, well, and Janet's going to be liaison to that as well. You may want to connect with them concerning the Council on Aging
Yes,
in addition. Great.
thank you.
Okay. I want to, Kari, are you still on the call here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. Kari asked, this is not on our agenda, but Kari asked if she could speak a little bit about voting, which the live voting will happen next month, certainly before our next meeting.
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to let you know that we decided to change a polling place. The town clerk's office recommended a change to the select board, and they approved it on Monday. So precinct 1 that normally votes at 141 Kais Road will be voting at the townhouse in the hearing room. And we did that because we don't have enough space to accommodate staff, voters, in COVID-19, during COVID-19. So we'll have a lot more space. We know that this space is successful for election use because we have early voting there. We will have early voting beginning October 17th, which is a Saturday. Saturday and Sunday, October 17th and 18th. And then again, October 24th and 25th, we'll have early voting in person at the townhouse in the hearing room from 12 to 4. And then during business days, so that's the 19th through the 23rd and the 26th through the 30th from 8:30 to 4:30. So those are in-person options. And what we are doing for election day is the police chief will designate 2 spaces in front of the townhouse as handicap accessible, and then 1 space behind the townhouse so that there's a level surface to get from your vehicle to the townhouse. Now, many of you have already applied for ballots, and we do have a large ballot drop box. It's labeled official ballot drop box, and it has a seal on the front of it. So you can actually drive pretty much right up from behind the townhouse, right up to that ballot drop box and put your ballot in. And that is safe and secure. We're installing cameras and we'll have a light there as well, so that it will hopefully make voters feel comfortable with the many options that they have.
That's great. Thank you, Kari. I know this is a trying time in a lot of ways to get voting accomplished, and you've really worked hard to try to accommodate voters in every way possible.
Well, thank you. We've gotten a lot of guidance from the state. They are very, very concerned and aware that any changes to polling places, they do not have any kind of limitations for anyone to access them. So we had to go through and complete a survey that then the state approved and also Kate approved. So we feel that it is a good location. But if you have any concerns about any of the polling locations, please do let me know.
Okay, Karen?
Okay.
I just had a quick question. Will the voters in that precinct be notified of the change in location?
Yes, on Tuesday, we're sending out a town-wide mailer, and that will go to every single household.
Okay.
And the front and back of that page have very boldly that the polling location for precinct 1 has changed. We will also have signs at precinct 1, and we will probably also have the large LCD machine, or I'm not sure what you call that, so that people will have adequate notice. And I believe the town manager will also be sending out a message very close to the election about that via the code red.
Okay.
So that people know. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks
Oh,
for
good.
asking.
Yeah, that code red seems to work really well for sharing
Yeah.
information.
It does.
Good.
It does.
Good.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, Jean.
Thank you, Kari. I appreciate you coming tonight. I'm sorry it took us so long through the meeting to
Oh no,
get to you.
it's fascinating to listen to all the things you need to discuss and review and make people aware of. It's really fascinating. And thank you for doing it.
Well, I think this group is really committed to accessibility.
That's great.
So, thank you.
Thank you all.
So, two other things left. Concord Free Public Library has made a request to the AAB for a variance. They're looking for a variance so they would not need to make the old front stairway of the library accessible. And they're also looking for a variance so that they can keep the I guess kind of historic bookshelves in place where they are. The turning radius at the end of those rows is not enough to get a wheelchair really successfully around. But they feel like these have been in place many years and they're very historic. So I'm asking you what you think about these. There will be a new accessible entrance with certainly accessible parking, hopefully safe accessible parking. So I ask you all.
I have an opinion about the front steps. I would
Yes.
like to see those change. And I don't know if anybody else has any other opinions about that, but you know, when you come into town and you look at the library, unless it can be a very discreet entrance to a side, I would let it go and accept that they've made an acceptable entrance for us in the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the new entrance will be accessible, and there is still the accessible entrance on Sudbury Road.
Right, yeah.
So there will actually be two accessible entrances.
I hate to see that front change.
Okay. What about the bookshelves? Karen?
Yeah, I read that variance request, and it just kind of bothered me that the solution or the suggestion was that library staff could find books for a person. And like, yes, that's true. You could ask somebody to retrieve the book, but that doesn't allow you to browse the stacks, which I think is part of the excitement or interest in going to the library, is to actually look at the shelves, and see what's there. And I don't know enough about the location of those shelves to understand like what's shelved there. You know, maybe it's not something anybody ever looks at, but I don't know. I was less enthusiastic about supporting that variance. I agree with Janet about the front entrance. I think that's, you know, there are other options there, but I wasn't convinced that the suggestion, the workaround was quite valid.
That's kind of the workaround that you know, buildings that are businesses who are in buildings that are not accessible have been allowed to do. Now, you know, this is they're expanding the library and adding new shelves and so forth. I'm not familiar with what's housed on those shelves either. And I've been trying to think about this. It bothers me that people wouldn't be able to access, you know, the stacks and the bookshelves. But I also was thinking about a person using a wheelchair. How much of those bookshelves are they going to be able to access anyway? Are they even going to be able to see what's on the top two or maybe 3 shelves. I don't know. So I'm kind of, yeah, Jennifer.
So to make a change to these 2 floors to accommodate a 48-inch wide aisle down each row and at the end, I think is would derail any changes happening at all. I don't think it's practical, but I also think that it's not a complete lack of accessibility. It's a minimum clearance. And one of the suggestions that I would recommend we make.
Can you please mute yourself if you're not talking? Thank you.
One of the recommendations I would suggest we make is that the library can keep a chair on hand that is narrower and is more maneuverable if necessary on these floors. In fact, they might keep 2 chairs, 1 on each floor, so that if a patron wants to come and peruse the stacks, if they have the option to do so more comfortably. Some people's chairs may already be narrow enough and fit through here with little difficulty. If you were using a motorized chair, there's no way you're going to be able to get around, as Meryl, I see you shaking your head, there's no way you're going to be able to get around. What you would probably have to do is literally back out of these aisles, because you can't make it all the way around the end and come back the other direction like you would in a grocery store. So, so I think I have a hard time saying that we shouldn't agree to the idea that this is an impracticality that is very difficult to change. But I also think that there is a sidebar solution, which may be one way to manage this going forward. Because they are self-supporting stacks, so there's structure involved in the library and how the building is built. The stacks in some cases are holding up the floor above. So it's not as easy as just saying, yeah, we want them all moved apart. We don't approve of this. My sense is that they would get this variance whether or not we disapprove of or approve it, because of the practicality of it. So I think if we can do anything, we can suggest this other option of maybe having a chair on hand.
That's a really good idea, I think, Jennifer, that, you know, if we suggest that, we say, okay, fine, we're suggesting this, that's likely to meet with some success versus saying, oh no, you're gonna have to tear out those shelves, and the AAB is gonna say, no, it's all right.
Yeah, I agree. That's like a brilliant solution.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So since we've got to make send a formal letter about this, we'll need a vote from you all. Does someone want to make a motion?
I'd like to move that we, tell the AAB that we have no objection to, the request to keep the shelves, and add that we'd like to, suggest that some sort of seating be available that would accommodate someone who is disabled on each floor.
Okay, and the front stairs remain?
And we agree that the front stairs that would remain as part of the historic nature of the building.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Jennifer, okay. Karen, can you call a vote, please? You're muted, Karen.
Okay. A vote to accept the motion proposed by Meryl. Jennifer?
Aye.
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
Meryl? Janet?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Grazia?
Oh, I'm not sure Grazia can vote
Oh,
as a
sorry.
liaison.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think I have to
All right.
vote. I'll say aye.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, then there's just one final thing. We didn't, the select board received a complaint this week, last week, I'm not sure which, Terry, from a gentleman wanting a handicap parking space at a dentist's office on Sudbury Road. It was reviewed by Ray Matty. I can send all of that out to you now. It was too close to the meeting to send it to you, and since it wasn't on the agenda, but I can send it out to you and people can read through it. It looks like Ray Matty reviewed it and said that that they didn't need to do anything to comply. The person who was complaining does not agree with that. So that person was not coming to us directly, but to the select board, and Terry rightly sent it on to us to say, here's this info, and what do you know about it? Which was, we didn't know anything about it. So I will send that out to all of you. I'm thinking it might be worth taking a look at it if a couple of people want to go and actually look at the dentist's office and get a sense of excuse me, sorry, sure, thank you. I apologize. And get a sense of what it looks like and whether this is something that we want to sort of press the owner to make the change, or that Ray's right and everything is fine. So I'm sure between now and our next meeting, I can manage to get out there. I'm wondering if there might be one or two of you who would be willing to. Jennifer, thank you.
No problem. I'm not
Okay.
that far from there. And if you just send that on, I can weigh in from a planning perspective.
Great.
On what's going on there.
Great, thank you. So we can then put that on our agenda for the next meeting to discuss. And again, the complainant hasn't reached out to us, though we would certainly be the appropriate group to assist or to say, nope, it really is okay.
Jean,
Yeah, Terry.
I will let him know that I've forwarded his letter to you, and
Okay.
that you will be taking a look and discussing it at your next meeting, and I'll copy you on that.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Terry. So next meeting date looks like November the, sorry, let me turn my calendar page. November the 12th, Thursday, November the 12th. Does that work for everyone? We're kind of doing well getting back into the second Thursday of the month routine. So
It may not work.
Janet.
It may not work for me, but that doesn't, but go ahead. I'm
Okay.
at a meeting that day.
Oh, yeah, Jennifer? Doesn't work for you either? Okay. What if we backed it up to the 5th? Would November 5th work? Yeah, I see all nods. Okay, then we'll do November 5th, 5 o'clock, just like now. I'm sorry this meeting went a little longer than we usually do, but we had a lot of content here. Yeah, Karen.
Just one last, can we approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure we got it all.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Or not approve them.
Yeah, Janet.
I just have one little thing to say. When
Sure.
you were talking about the person who was complaining about the accessibility to the dentist office, and you said something about of course, no, he didn't send it to us, he sent it to the town, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how many people know that we even exist? And what can we do about that?
Oh, that's been a problem since we started.
We aren't very old. We haven't
No,
been.
we're not, but we've been around a few years.
We have.
And you know, that's part of the issue, why we keep getting these things presented to us after it's already halfway done or most of the way done, and then it's too late.
Well, I wonder about a letter to the editor or a column or something, just to say that we're the new guys in town. We've only been around a few years and you don't know about us. But if you have any issues that would apply to these ADA, we're the people you should come. We're here for you.
Yeah, yeah.
I just think it'd be, I think it's a shame that nobody knows we exist.
Yeah, I do too. I agree.
Would you like to write a letter, Janet? And we'll certainly.
I don't really know what to say. I know you and I wrote the original letter. We wrote the original 5 years ago. We wrote the original. Do you have that, a copy of that, Meryl? A copy of the original?
Let's see. I'd have to search.
Think about it. Let's just think about the idea.
Okay. I think it's a great idea that we
Just
give ourselves publicity.
Yeah.
I think, you know.
I wonder if we could get the town to put something in the news and notes. You know, I get 2 or 3 times a week something about, you know, a road's blocked off or this or that. But I wonder if they would be willing to put something in. Looks like Kate likes that idea, so maybe she'll help us with it.
But I don't know, do I get
Will
that?
Okay, great, Kate, thank you.
Do I get that? Does everybody get that?
It goes to anyone who is signed up for it.
I was thinking
So,
the journal.
yeah, oh yeah, but I'm thinking about, you know, there could be several ways to try to get the word out there.
Yeah.
Because some people read the journal, other people do more online stuff.
Yeah.
But
Meryl and I could work on
putting
some. We did it before. We can do it again.
Awesome.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. That would be
Good
great.
idea, Janet.
Okay. And I'll loop back with Kate about getting something in the news and notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other things for tonight?
Dinner.
Dinner. Yeah, dinner. 6:25. Yikes. Thank you all so much. I will adjourn the meeting at 6:25. We'll see you on November 5th. Thank you. Nice to
Bye.
have you, Grazia.
Thank you.